Hello everyone and welcome to this week's garden tour. We are starting at the plot garden today. Everything is growing so fast that I'm actually having a hard time keeping up with it. We'll start by taking a look here, seeing how everything's going. Then we're gonna move on to my backyard. If you're new here, my name is Mari and I'm gardening Queens, New York City. This plot garden belongs to a neighbor of mine and he lets me use this little space here to garden. Last year we shared this space a little bit. He planted some things, I planted some things, but this year they're traveling this summer for a while, so I got a chance to plant everything I wanted and I am very happy with the way things are turning out. So I can't wait to show you guys the progress of everything. The tomatoes here are growing really fast. They're kind of getting to the point where they're almost to the size of this pole. Those are just PVC pipes. I had someone ask me on the last garden tour. So the owner of the plot already had them in here. He cut them to intentionally make poles, but I think they were growing mostly determinate tomatoes, so they're growing mostly tomatoes for sauce, so they don't get super tall. But I'm growing mostly indeterminate tomatoes, which can get really tall, so I think that those poles are actually not tall enough. We'll see. This is only week 6 of the garden tour. I planted these tomatoes the week before I started the garden tour, so they're growing super fast. I want to say that. And it's only June. It's only mid-June. They already kind of getting to that height, so we'll see how it goes, but I'll probably have to think about something of how I can support the tomatoes better. Last year I also grew tomatoes, but they were not doing nearly as good as these guys are doing this year. I think I started them too early, and also they got disease last time. So this year I'm making sure that I am bottom watering them. I'm trying to keep these leaves as dry as possible because I think they had blight last year. I'm not really sure, but the leaves all shriveled up and start getting spots on them. Tomatoes just stopped growing. They kind of got stunted and they eventually died. Still produced a good harvest for us, but by August we had no tomatoes anymore. So this year I'm really hoping that that's not the case because they're looking really healthy. They have tons of fruit on them already. All of them do. And they're getting quite big, some of them bigger than others, but they're all setting fruit in the bottom. They still have flowers on the top. The leaves are looking nice and healthy. I gotta do a better job at coming here, finding some time to prune them more often because they are kind of outgrowing me. Last time I staked them, I tied this up to this height and look how much this one has already grown. I just whipped them around to try to support them, but I should most certainly have had a couple more twines in there to support it. But let's check out this huge tomato here. Look at this, how big it already is. This is a Black Beauty tomato. This one here was the first to set fruit. So there's lots more flowers on the top of the plant. But one thing that worries me about having the plant so close to the ground is that I actually have lots of squirrels here and possibly rats. We're in New York City, so we never know. And once they finally start ripening, these guys are gonna get to them before me. So I have to be very attentive, and I'm really gonna try to pick them as soon as they start blushing so I don't lose them for the animals. There's a few varieties that are producing more than others. This one is called Ananas Noir. Is also producing really good, so you can see that has some tomatoes in here, some more up there, lots of flowers coming up. I also heard that this is a very good tasting tomato. I've never had it before. It's supposed to be like a greenish tomato, not a red type, but I can't wait to try it. We'll see. And there's another Black Beauty here, also full of fruit. Looks like we're gonna have lots of Black Beauty tomatoes this season. These actually will wrap into red, so it has this nice purple dark shoulders that will turn black, I guess, with the sun, like those guys on that side were, but they will be red underneath if the bottom is not super exposed to the sun. I guess if they get fully exposed to the sun, the whole tomato turns black, but from the pictures I've seen online, you see how this one in the back here is still green. That part there would just kind of turn to red. And I also have made a mistake when I was pruning on one of them. I accidentally cut the top of it instead of the suckers. I was really upset at the time. You know, sometimes when you do things in a rush, things like this happen. This was the tomato that I accidentally cut the top. I think this one was the top of the plant and I cut it by accident. So it is sending out some suckers, and now the suckers will take over and become the top of the plant, but it's looking much shorter than everybody else. As you can tell, it's kind of little tiny and bushier. I guess I slowed it down by taking the top off. but it's all right. Hopefully we'll catch up. And here on this other side, the tomatoes are not doing as well as the ones over there. They keep getting dry much quicker. So I think it's because I put this cardboard in here that dries out super fast. You know, it's starting to decompose, I guess, but it dries out so fast compared to this side. So I feel that the tomatoes here, everything that's growing here is suffering a bit. So definitely a lesson learned. I need to put a lot more compost or top layer of mulch if I am going to do this no dig method again. This side here, it's looking a little bit better than the one all the way in the back there. I have mostly cherry tomatoes here, that's why they have the cages, and the ones that have cages there, they're determinate tomatoes. That one back there is not a cherry tomato, it's a pink tie-dye tomato. It's producing well too. It has an interesting leaf. It looks more like a potato leaf to me, so I wonder if this is really a pink tie-dye or the seeds were mixed, so maybe it got cross-pollinated. I don't know, we'll find out when those fruits ripen. These two here are black strawberries. This one's getting quite big actually for a cherry. Look how big it is compared to my hand. So actually going back to that other bed there's something that I want to show that I noticed when I was watering. I think that I might already be getting some blossom and rot here. This tomato over here, you see how the bottom is looking? I'm gonna take it out. It's looking all kind of rotten. I think this is blossom and rot. It's pretty intense right now. It's almost in this whole tomato. This is not good. Oh, there's another one. Oh no, this is the Amish paste variety. So usually blossom and rot, it's a deficiency, it's a calcium deficiency, it's a physiologic thing on the plant, so it won't really spread to anything. It's just the ability of plant to take up some calcium, and then the fruit won't form properly. And so people would say that if you water too much or too little, and if it's a watering issue, you could oversaturate the roots, and then the roots won't be able to take up the calcium that is in the soil. Since I mentioned that this here, it's under a cardboard, it's not getting water properly, I thought that would mostly happen if you water too much. I thought I was watering too little because the cardboard was drying out, but maybe there's a lot of water holding up underneath this cardboard. I don't know, but I know that is some blossom and rot happening only on this bed over here. So it's something that I'm going to keep an eye, but to see how it goes. Let's move on here from the tomatoes. Enough tomato talk already. I have also sowed some new seeds in here in between the beds. You can see here that some of them already sprouted. This is black-eyed pea, or cowpea some people would call. There's 3 plants in here. Sowed kind of heavily. Not everybody germinated. Oh, I can see that one here didn't make it. If those 2 start keep looking nice and strong like this, I would thin this out, take this one out, and let these 2 grow. I know it's only 2 plants, but I've never grown black-eyed peas before, so I just want to learn about, you know, its growing habit and how the plant does. Next we have this borage. Borage is like a bee magnet. You see there's so many bees and they're enjoying the borage right now. It's hard for me to catch them, but it's something that I really enjoy planting for the bees. So in the same bed here we have the eggplant. Eggplant was doing really bad for us for a while, and it's starting to catch up. I don't know, it might be stunted, it might be too little, but it has some flowers already. It's not looking as yellow, it's starting to look nice and green, so I have hope. Maybe we'll have a little harvest from it. It's still gonna be okay. This here is dragon tongue beans that are planted and got quite eaten, some of the leaves, by slugs because it had some rain, but it's kind of recovering pretty well, so let's see how that's going to do. Kale here is doing really good too. My neighbor actually came here and did a big harvest and is already growing back, which is I'm very happy to see. On this other side I have also sowed a few things in between the beds. This is some okra. I have already tried to plant some okra here and the birds ate it. There's a sunflower here that also survived, got little slug damage, but hopefully that one will make it. And there's lots of little okras here. They're planted too close together, but since I lost so many last time, I am just trying to see if the birds will leave it alone, and if it does, if they start growing, I'll just thin them out and have 2 plants in here. Moving on here to the front, to this, under this new arch that we put it. We have 2 now. I'm very excited about that. I guess if you watch some of the previous garden tours, I had a lot more corn growing here, but especially the ones in the middle, they got knocked off and eaten by squirrels. So we lost the ones in the middle there, but the 4 remaining are looking good. They're growing quite well. And the beans, check this out, are definitely doing its thing. That's really cool. They are already starting to wrap up the corn, and I love the way this bed is looking. There's some squash that's behind. We planted this squash here maybe just a couple weeks ago. It's taking a kind of a long time to recover from the transplant shock. It hasn't really grown much, so I don't know if it's going to do well or not, because they don't look like they're doing much. I did direct sow some seeds here in the back from a squash right now that I didn't label, and I can't remember which one was it. But I had some squash in there before with the corn, and they also got eaten, got nibbled. They snipped off the top. So I planted something else in there, because even though it's not a super traditional Three Sisters bed, I wanted to at least have corn, squash, and beans in here. Everything's just looking so nice. Over here on this side, we have flowers by the squash bed. Got some zinnias in here that we wanted to add for beauty, and I'm glad that they are all kind of blooming and starting to bloom. The snapdragons, they're looking really pretty. I think it's called Black Twin Snapdragon. It's really beautiful. Here on the second arch, we have a cucumber that's starting to climb. It is a bit crowded here, so hopefully things do well. The flower bed, it's starting to fill up. This amaranth, look at this, so much bigger than it was last time I showed you guys, so that's kind of incredible. I was kind of shocked when I came here too this week. And these guys are growing a little bit slower. The zinnias are doing really good. I ended up snipping the top of them, so this is slowly kind of coming along. We have this volunteer tomatillos in here. I didn't plant any tomatillos this year. All the tomatillos in the garden are volunteers. And at the end of this bed here, we have this beautiful dark straw flowers. This was the original color that I bought because I had black sunflowers last year and I thought they were very beautiful, so I wanted to get some of this guys too, in case I wanted to cut some flowers for the house. I think it looks really nice. I really like the dark color. But now that's the beginning of summer, I have to admit I'm a lot more drawn to the colorful flowers, the yellows and the oranges, the pink. But I'm sure I'll have time that I'm going to appreciate that too. This will be great for the fall. Here this set, the fig tree is looking really, really, really good. Very nice and lush, and it has lots of fruits in it. We're very happy about the way it's coming up. Here in this bed, this herb bed that I was like, oh, I don't know if it's gonna work, you know. I might plant some other stuff in here. It's doing great. Just needed some time. Also, after we cut the thick peach tree in there, and it gets a lot more sun, so it's really responding well to that. The calendula is now starting to bloom. This is the strawberry blonde calendula. It's very cute. I love that color. It's early in the morning, so they kind of close back a little bit. Yesterday when I came, they were all open. The fennel, it's really, really growing well. It's getting a lot bigger, getting big really, really fast. The feverfew here has tons of buds, so we will have some flowers soon. Back here, just a few extra peppers that I had. The tomatillos are doing really, really good, and put some extra tomatoes that I felt bad to put in the compost, so I planted them in there. They're doing good too. Oh, there's another tomatillo volunteer there that's doing well, even though they're kind of under this fig tree and getting some shade, but it's still growing, so let's see how it goes. In a couple more beds and then we'll be done. We have the squash bed here and have a couple dahlias in here. They're looking really good. Oh, there's another dahlia there that's also looking good. I skipped it. And this cucumber on this side, maybe because it has a bit more space, it's growing much faster than that guy over there in that corner, so it's getting taller and it's grabbing the support really well. Squash is doing good. The one in my backyard is doing much better. I think it's because this shade side here, it gets a little bit longer to get sun on that side because of this tall building. They are not growing as fast. I have the same variety growing in a bucket in my backyard, and it's huge. I'm going to show you guys after this. It's so much bigger than that one is. Maybe we'll catch up with the days getting longer and longer. Overall, it's doing good. I noticed some damage the other day, so I thought last time I saw they took a leaf. Now the whole stem has a hole, so I don't like that. Maybe an animal did that, but vine borers can probably get in. I don't know. Now I should just replant it. I'll think about it. Maybe I'll just cover with some dirt and think about it. But I actually have a hard time growing squash here. Last year we had a lot of powdery mildew and vine borers. Unfortunately, I have already seen the first vine borer in my backyard, and I went up there and looked for eggs and took out all the eggs. I'll have to probably come over here and look as well, to see if I see anything, but I can already see some powdery mildew coming up on this. Do you see these little white dots in there? That's not good. That's not a good sign. So the battle has started. I'm gonna come here with clean pruners later, clean hands, and I'm gonna take everything out. It's really hard here with mildew. This is about to get even more humid, so I hope that doesn't damage the plants so bad. This squash here is from Hawaii. It's a different variety. It's a called long squash variety, and it has a kind of a different feel for the leaf, and this is doing really good. This is not powdery mildew. I think it's just bird poop or something, but it feels amazing. It's doing really good, starting to send out some tendrils, so I'm hopeful to see that this one might do well. We have some potatoes back there. You can see I moved them there. They're still flowering. That one got some purple flowers, which is quite cute, and they must be really close because I also planted them before doing the garden tours, and this is week 6. Potatoes take an average about 60 days, so since they're flowering now, still flowering, they were already flowering the week before. I think that maybe in a couple more weeks they will probably start dying back. I don't know, some varieties can take longer, and they were in the shade before. We are definitely approaching the 60-day mark, and hopefully they will be ready to harvest soon. Some of the daylilies have bloomed back here too. It's looking really nice. I love to look at them even though they're completely shaded by this crazy grapevine that's getting out of control here. Really got to learn more about how to take care of them. And look how many grapes we will possibly have this year. That's insane. I don't know if they are gonna set, but there's just so many. It's kind of amazing. This is it for the plot. It's coming up nicely. Really like the flowers coming on this side. Hopefully we'll fill up a little bit more soon, and also hopefully we'll have some stuff climbing over that arch in the next garden tours. So I'm gonna go to the backyard now and pass through the front yard real quick. The sunflowers there are in full bloom, and they're really beautiful. It's so funny how fast things happen. Last week I was super excited about one sunflower that was blooming. Now all of them are just looking amazing. So let's go take a look at that and check out my backyard. The sunflowers, how beautiful they're looking. And of course there's some noise. Here in the front yard is a lot more noisy. If you watched my garden tour last year, you know that. It's facing a little busy street here in New York. We live in an avenue in Queens, so there's a lot of foot traffic. There's also a truck back there making a little noise. The sunflower that I showed last week, it's already kind of lost its petals. The sun is a bit strong now, but here are the peas that I mentioned. I did come here and harvest a lot, but there's a lot more, so I need to also find some time to come here again. Some of them are getting a bit too big already. There's a zinnia that's about to bloom here, and look at those lilies that just open. The color is really beautiful. It's full of leaves here because there's lots of flowers, which is a good thing. If you're here, this front yard is where I used to garden last year. That's where all of my 2021 garden tours are, that little front yard plus the plot. I built those raised beds in there, and I actually had lots of veggies in there too last year. In the beginning, that was all I had. I was actually gardening that front yard, and that's when my neighbor that owns the plot saw me and asked if I wanted to use that other space that he has out there as well. So this is a little apartment building here in New York, and in the beginning of this year we actually moved to the back unit that has the backyard that the garden tours that I've been showing these garden tours this year, and my landlord told me that I could still plant some stuff in the front yard, so that's how it's looking over there right now. Alright, so I got to my backyard, looking really good with the sun. It's just starting to get a bit windy here. I also have a sunflower that opened, but it's facing the other side. This is, I think, from the evening sun. See the pack that I got? I first thought it was a chocolate sunflower, but then I noticed that it has some yellow-ish things on the leaves. I really don't know if you guys can see. It's hard for me to get there since it's kind of really close to the fence here, but I wish it was facing our side, but it's okay. At least our neighbors actually, I guess, can enjoy it. The sun is there, so it's actually facing the sun, which is cool. This is our second sunflower here out the backyard. The first one, that white one, the white light one, is already done. It was also just a single stem sunflower, not a branching. This will bloom for a little bit, I hope. This is our little building. There's a couple more units up there too. We only have the little apartment back here. So this is actually south facing. You get a lot of sun. and everything here is actually getting much bigger than what I have in the plot. You see, these tomato plants are much taller than the ones there. They're also full of fruit. We have some nice Black Beauty tomatoes here too, but they're just really tall. They have already passed the little support that I put in there. This is a bamboo stick, I think it was like 6 inches. So we'll see what we'll do for support in here too. But I also kind of fell back into them. And I tried yesterday to do some work here. You saw my little vlog that I posted. It was a little bit rushed. I actually did some seed sowing and did some cleaning up, but I didn't get a chance to come and prune the tomatoes. So they're looking a bit wild, but they're gonna be okay. I'm gonna see if I can prune them this weekend. This bed kinda looks a bit overcrowded, many would say, but I think everything is still thriving in here because I put in some really good compost. Even though I have things kind of growing really close to each other, they just seem to be doing good. I have these flowers here that are looking so pretty. This one here is getting to be fully bloomed. I was gonna cut it and I decided just to leave it in the garden to enjoy the beauty. And this here is getting a bit fuller too. Those are both zinnias. This one is the calendula. I talked a lot more about all the varieties in the earlier garden tours too, so now I just want to kind of give it a catch up and an update. Here on those buckets I have these beans are looking really good. They're growing very fast even though they're in these little tiny shallow pans. So those are bush beans. They're already kind of budding, so I'm excited to probably be harvesting from it soon. Got a lot more flowers here and everyone is doing good except the peppers. I think I overcrowded them. This pepper here is doing good. This is a biquinho pepper. Brazil is the only one that's really looking like thriving. Everybody else looks a bit stunted, but it's alright. The okra is looking good. Put a seed in here. It gets a bit shady, but hopefully when it passes that little mark there, we'll get a lot more sun to and grow much faster. But look at that. I'm so happy with the way this is all turning out. So even if I didn't have the plot, I only had this backyard here, I wouldn't be able to grow a lot of food. So it's definitely very encouraging if you don't have lots of space. You can see here that I can still grow a lot of stuff. I'm growing out these flowers for the pollinators and for ourselves too, because I'm loving having some flowers in the garden. It makes me really enjoy to be out here other than just having the greens if I only had tomatoes there. But it's really good for the pollinators, so I'd really also recommend that people plant flowers too if they can. There's lots of resources about companion planting that you can check out. I have to be honest with you, I kind of just go ahead and plant everything together. In the beginning, when I first started gardening in 2020, I'll be kind of obsessed about it. I'll be like reading about everything and be so worried that things would happen, and then like, can I plant tomatoes next to beans and basil? I kind of have been easing off a little bit in this past couple of years because I saw that the garden wants to grow regardless. You know, I had a lot of success even though I didn't know much, so now I kind of am more free-flowing. I plan the stuff with what I have space for and what I want to grow and how one of the gardens will look like, and so far has been working. But definitely recommend looking up companion planting if you are interested in that and don't want to be as experimental as I am, because I do have lots of plants and if I lose a few things here and there, it's totally fine with me. Also, I really like the principle of observing and interacting with your garden. So one of the ways that I learn from the garden is doing that, is experimenting, putting things like how I think, you know, just to see how they're gonna do, so I can learn from my own space that I am in, my own microclimate, my own little ecosystem that I am creating. So that's my personality too. I love doing that. I'm really just trying to learn as I grow here. One of the biggest experiments or things that I thought worked out really well in the garden this year has been working out are these peas. I decided to grow these peas next to this pear tree to have the pear tree act as a trellis. I did put an upside down tomato cage here that's probably, you can see it a little bit, yeah, it's completely like hidden by other vines now, but to give some support. And then after that the peas started kind of climbing and grabbing into the pear tree. I mean, you can see that I missed some too. Every time I come here, see, you can see there's 3 peas growing all the way up there. You can see that, how cool it is. It's so tall. I gotta harvest these guys. I miss it a lot too here and there. This is way too old. They already look a bit dried out, but you can still eat the peas inside. So this is really cool, figuring out that I could grow something up here to use this little space that I otherwise wouldn't grow anything. It's pretty exciting. The peas that I planted here are doing the best out of all of them. So it's pretty cool to learn that too. The pear tree has a bit of a disease on it. I don't really know, I think it's red rust or something, but I don't think it passes to the peas. The peas are looking nice and healthy. There are lots of pears in the pear tree too. The squirrels have been coming here eating some, so a little bit upset about that, but that's another topic. But this is a pretty cool thing to learn, and next year maybe I'll try to do a squash in here or something to also have it growing over this tree. And I guess that for the peas particularly, it's working well because of the shade the tree is also providing. So it's providing support and also a little cooler microclimate that the peas are really thriving on because they like that. So this is the kind of stuff that I like to try. I try to experiment with all this crazy stuff and see how it goes. But I also like to observe and try to figure out why. You know, I just don't randomly throw stuff in there and forget about it. And, you know, I keep observing, I keep paying attention, taking notes to really kind of, you know, learn from it and see if I can apply that with some other things or in the future. Everything in the containers are doing pretty good too. These eggplants, I gotta move it. It's a bit in the shade and it's not doing as good as the other ones are. I already have some baby eggplants on the other ones. These guys are getting a bit more sun, and look at that. Looks like we'll be harvesting some patio baby eggplants. This other plant right here on this side also has a little eggplant on it right there, you can see, which is cool too. Lots of tomatoes here as well on this side, and this is the squash that I mentioned that's looking a lot bigger than the one in the plot. Those seeds are all planted on the same day. The seeds from that squash there and the one here, they kind of transplanted out at the same time. I might even have put the other one out before. This one is doing amazing. It's just so big and it's growing so well. It's in a 5-gallon bucket and it's getting a lot more sun. So I really think that might be the reason why it's growing so much faster. Let's check out how it's looking inside, if there's any flowers or anything. There's no flowers, but looks like some buds are forming. This one over here already has some flowers. This is the dark star zucchini. That one is a tetra squash. So this has opened some male flowers already, and I spot a little female over here with the fruit on the bottom. So that's exciting. When they're open, I will try to do some hand pollinating. And there's one thing on this squash that's making me a little worried. You see how this white patterns are emerging? The other leaves are all totally green, so I'm afraid that this could also be beginning stages of powdery mildew. This one, I don't know. The other ones in the pot look more like dots. Is there anything underneath the leaf? No. So yeah, I don't know, but it's better safe than sorry. Since it's not in every leaf, I think I'm gonna go ahead and prune some of these leaves out too. This one here is a lemon squash, and I'm trying to grow it vertically. You can see I've been attaching it to the pole on the side. It's starting to just form buds right now too. I moved this beautiful zinnia over here to the side to kind of help giving a little color to the back here, because everything was just really green, so I think it looks nice. Hopefully get some more buds out soon. One more thing here is this cucumber. This spot is a little shaded now, but it got a little bit more sunlit in the day. It's also growing, but also has stuff on its leaves, so I'm sure there's something kind of damaging it, and we'll see how it goes. The green stalks here are getting full. This one here is looking particularly nice. I really like the flowers and the herbs. This nasturtium, gotta move it a little bit more to this side. There you go. Yeah, it looks nicer, I guess. Nasturtium and calendula are getting really big, looking nice in the bottom, but I do have a few miniature tomatoes in there that are kind of making it look, the plants are a little funky. Maybe I should have planted some bigger stuff in there so it looks more even, but I guess it's alright. I still like the way it's looking, and that's definitely my favorite color. I love this red russet color. It was a limited edition, so unfortunately they don't have it available anymore, but I really like the way it looks against the greens, or like yellow. See how nice with the calendula looks. It's very pretty. This is my favorite planter for sure. There's some different nasturtiums, the Bloody Mary nasturtium blooming here, that I wish it was coming out of the leaves a little more so we could see, but it's alright. Strawberries, let's check. Any strawberries on this plant? I've been picking strawberries quite often. Not on this one, but on that one I can already see there's a bunch red and ready to pick. They're little, but they're very sweet. So I have also mentioned previously that I didn't have any luck with carrots this year, but there's one little carrot here, so hopefully I'll have one on this planter. Last year I did plant some carrots in this planter and they did really good, so I thought they would do it well this year too, but I think I might have planted them too early, or also I might have not kept the soil moist for long enough, because carrots take forever to germinate, and I guess I just moved to watering from the top reservoir too soon. Usually when you sow seeds directly in the green stalk, you have to keep the soil surface moist, so that helps with germination, and I failed to do that, so I did not have good germination in my carrots this year. Some of the things here are looking really good. I have already filled up most of the pockets that had no carrots on them, so I have these little beets in here. The beans are doing really good. This guy's getting really fast, and the beets that I've been showing every week, this guy here is getting really big. I don't actually like to harvest my beets too big. I want them more like a golf ball size, which that one's already is a little bigger, because I feel they're like tender and sweeter. If they're a little bit smaller, we enjoy the flavor better. And here on this side we have lots of shishitos. I have actually already harvested some of them, and it's just full of peppers again, which is really cool. We have some friends visiting later today, and I'm sure I'm gonna harvest a lot more for us to enjoy tonight too. My experiment with those tomatoes there is not going very well. Same as last week, haven't grown much, not much difference. Fish pepper still curled on the top. I still don't know what it is. Some people mentioned in the comments that might have been some sort of herbicide that came with air drift or something. I don't know, because we are in New York City, so I'm not sure if that would be really something that happens in here, and it's only happening in a few peppers and not all of them, but we'll see. Hopefully the plant can just pull through. Puma pepper is looking amazing. Very pretty foliage, and I think I saw some peppers forming in here. Where is that? So they start green and purple. They get big as a shiro. I'm also gonna get to that side, and then once they start ripening, they get orange underneath, so they're really pretty. I really love that plant overall. I love the look of the leaves, and I love the way the peppers look too. So this is one of my favorite pepper varieties. It's called a Puma pepper. The peppers are actually tasty too, but it's spicy, so you gotta like spicy to grow that one. There is one more thing I want to show. Check this out. We have some bell peppers, and they're looking pretty big. I think we have 3 of them. Alright, so I guess that will be it for the backyard here. Not much change from last week. It was a lot more exciting to take a look at the plot today. But I hope you guys enjoyed this little garden tour. If there's anything you want to see more or hear more, please don't hesitate to let me know in the comment section down below. I love connecting with you guys. And if you're curious to see how this garden was looking before, I'm gonna put a link to the playlist, the garden tour playlist here, so you can take a look at the previous garden tours and see the whole progress of the garden. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you next time.